Good afternoon. My name is Niko House, host of the political radio show Mikasa Sukasa, and I urge you all to donate to our One Follow, $1 campaign, where we essentially challenge you all to show the establishment media that you will no longer put up with their nonsense, their lies, their misrepresentation of honest and good politicians and honest and good people, and also honest and good journalists. Regardless or not if the journalist is left-leaning or right-leaning or anything in between that, I urge you all to donate $1 to your top 5 favorite independent journalists. There's no reason at all why, if you rely on these people, that your favorite journalist shouldn't have $1 per subscriber. I don't care if they have 15 subscribers or if they have 1 million subscribers. That is how valuable the truth is in our current political arena. Today I want to talk to you all about the election in Georgia, the special runoff election, as you all know, between Ossoff and then the Republican candidate, Karen Handel. There's been some fishy business. Now, a lot of us have been talking about this election from a purely political and strategic standpoint, which, of course, it is true. Ossoff did not do a good enough job of reaching out to African-American voters. He did not do a good enough job making radical policy promises. And I'll say radical like, okay, let's move towards single payer, which isn't really radical, but it's radical for establishment Dems. And I do believe that Ossoff is one of those kind of run-of-the-mill corporate establishment Democrats. However, there are some things that we still need to address, despite how we may feel about Ossoff or Handel, for that matter. That is that election fraud and election rigging is still a very potent issue in American politics, especially for some reason in these special elections. We've been seeing it time and time again. And whereas a lot of the times the country wouldn't be paying attention to these elections and to these outcomes, we are starting to see more and more that these outcomes are telling us a lot. And in the article by Lulu Friedsdat, and if you all don't follow her on Facebook, I suggest you do so. She does a lot of election fraud and election rigging material and does a lot of coverage of this stuff. And I think Lulu is a brilliant mind and is very good at what she does. But in her article, she talks about the Georgia 6th Congressional District and talks about how odd it is, regardless of which side of the fence you fall on. She says that John Ossoff, the Democratic newcomer who ran against Republican former Secretary of State Karen Handel, won the absentee vote 64% to 36%. That vote was conducted on paper ballots that were mailed in and scanned on optical scanners. Ossoff also won early voting, as most of you all know, 51% to 49%. Those results closely mirror recent polls that had him ahead by 1 to 3 points. So everything was all good there, because remember, everyone expected Ossoff to win, if you all recall. So in the highest of these polls, won by Atlanta Journal-Constitution, he was ahead by 7% with a 5% undecided and a 4% margin of error. Ossoff emerged from early voting with a 53% to 47% lead in votes that were recorded up until that point. Yet Handel ultimately was declared the winner of that race by a 3.6 margin. That's a lot. And so we have to ask, how does she do it? So according to the reported results, Handel pulled out a whopping 16% lead with voters who cast their ballots on election day, giving her a crushing 58% to 42% division of the day's vote. By that accounting, all 5% of the undecided voters in the AJC poll broke for Handel. The poll was off by its furthest estimate, and another 3.5% of Ossoff's voters switched sides. That means they went from Ossoff to her. All this despite Ossoff's intensive door-to-door ground offensive that Garland Favorito, who lives in the heart of 6th District, called the most massive operation he's ever seen. Favorito is the founder of Voter GA and a nonpartisan election reform group. He said that Handel had signs up, but her canvassing operation was no match for Ossoff. So then, of course, we have to get into the issue. We don't have to ask this question. We know. We've possibly seen, regardless of how you feel about Ossoff, because it's not about him or Handel at this point, we've seen another election get stolen right in front of our eyes. And then we see paper ballots, just like during the Bernie Sanders election, actually in a lot of cases, just like in the general election with Trump and Hillary. Paper ballots end up telling one story, but the voting machines end up, absentee ballots end up telling a different story, and then the voting machines end up telling a whole nother story. So once again, we get back to the point of accountability, of election rigging and election fraud. And I'm glad that Lulu Friedsdat did such a great job, and I'm going to post the article below, but she did such a fantastic job assessing all of this. And the percentages and the numbers don't match up. They simply don't add up. And so if we want any chance for a success in the progressive world, in the political world in general, we must start seeing a very palpable discussion of election fraud and election rigging. It can't just be at the with the DNC lawsuit, even though there's one way we are working on holding our electioneers and the parties accountable, is through the DNC fraud lawsuit. But we need more people on the ground. We need these conversations to stop ending at right after the election's over. We have to continue these conversations. We have to hold people accountable. And if we don't do so, we're going to see more of this. Now, granted, this type of thing happens quite often when it comes to Democrat versus Republican in these Republican-dominated areas. However, it's happening everywhere. This isn't an issue of Democrat or Republican. This is an issue of just and unjust, fair and unfair. And so if we want to see anybody that we would like to see, progressive or otherwise, in office, and this is, like I said, this is a nonpartisan issue. If we want to see the person who deserves to win every time, well, first, we got to solve election fraud and election rigging. We have to get these voter machines out. Thank you all so much for watching. Remember, please donate to our One Follow, $1 campaign. And let's show the establishment media that we do not need them anymore, and we're going to be more than willing to support our independent journalists. Always remember, find your balance. Peace.